Welcome, friends, to another round of Pub Theology Online. My name is Gavin Rogers. I'm one of the hosts of Pub Theology San Antonio, and welcome tonight to this beautiful space for a special DreamWeek event. DreamWeek is happening all over San Antonio. It's a great nonprofit that hosts events all over San Antonio, especially around the time of the MLK holiday. And so check out dreamweek.org to learn more about all the events happening throughout San Antonio. But here at Pub Theology, we are a dialogue group that meets in person and online. During COVID-19, we started meeting online and doing an online in-person podcast. So welcome to that, to our Dream Week event. And we are a group that meets to talk about faith, our community, and most importantly, creating the common good. Yes. And about that today, we have Light Walker joining us from Freed, Texas. She is the founder and CEO of a great organization in town. So we're going to have a conversation with her. She is an amazing force in San Antonio. I would say Light. That's what your name comes from. We'll talk about that here soon. So come grab a beer at home and in person and or a drink of your choice and come around the Chuck Wagon and we'll have a conversation. You can post your questions online. We will see that and we can ask questions and be in dialogue together. One thing we do when we're fully in person, right, is we ask the audience a question. So you have a question, we have somebody here that's going to answer that. And you can answer it at home as well. You can answer it by just responding on the comments or just in your mind. But Light, can you ask us a question to kick off this round of Pub Theology?
Okay. Well, we'll keep it simple. I want to do a simple question today. Do you have a loved one or someone you know that has been incarcerated?
And I think somebody does. Can you come and answer? You can come and answer. Come on up. You
can
answer this. And we're representing this as a virtual way to say hello. But what is your name?
My name's Anya Barte.
Anya, yeah, tell us a little about answer that question.
I have a stepbrother who was incarcerated, and he stayed in for about 6 months, and it completely changed him for a while. And now he's getting back into a healing process and getting back into society. So
thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason you asked that question, because everybody probably knows somebody,
yes,
maybe a close family member or friend, or maybe just an acquaintance that they grew up with, right?
Yes.
And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. One of the tough words tonight, and you can say with me, recidivism.
I know.
It's a very, very hard word to say when you run a CEO about recidivism.
I had to practice that word like crazy. You don't understand how many times I'll be recidivism and finally get it right. Recidivism, because it's a part of my, it's the name of my organization, a part of my name. So yeah, it's one of those moments where you definitely have to practice.
So you might be Googling what is recidivism. So tell us about it. Tell us, what is recidivism and what does it mean for those formerly incarcerated?
Well, simply put, recidivism, I got it right, by the way, is when people come out of incarceration and return back to incarceration. And that means people that have come out of jail, they are here for a little while, and then they go right back in. And it's a very common thing that happens in the state of Texas and in the jail population itself. We have right now recidivism rates at a national level that within 3 years, 63% of people go back into incarceration. Think about that number. And then in 9 years, 83% of people go back into incarceration. So very high numbers.
So her organization, Freed Texas, helps fight against that, right? You help to hopefully eliminate that and reduce that rate significantly, but also through educational means, family reconnection. There's holistic models that we'll talk about Freed Texas. So stick around and we'll talk about Freed Texas. But I want to go personal real fast.
Okay.
Right? We'll start there. I have a question for somebody who's formerly incarcerated, right? We'll talk about that as the second question. But the first question I want you to talk to our audience about is, what is the biggest misconception of people who are incarcerated? And what's the misconception about being incarcerated?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions. A lot of people, and I've been in conversations and been in rooms where people didn't know I was formerly incarcerated. And I've heard some really nasty things at times. I even heard us being considered baby eaters and rapists, and we want to hurt, and we're savages and unteachable. You just name it. There's so many different demeaning ways that we are represented when it comes to being somebody formerly incarcerated, when the truth of the matter is we're a human being first. We have loved ones. We have children. We have a community that we want to re-engage in. So there's just so much misconception about it. Also, I think a lot of people, I found for myself coming out of incarceration and trying to get back in the workforce, is as soon as you say you've been incarcerated, the first thing I've had a lot of people say, well, have you murdered somebody? It's just, it goes to very extremes. Or I've had people around me, as soon as they know I'm formally incarcerated, there's a tension, or they're afraid that I'm going to hurt or harm them, or that I want to, with the intent of causing some type of harm to them. So there's been a lot. It's very discouraging. I just can share that when you come out, you have hopes and dreams to do something better and great. And you're faced with many barriers that are set up by the system to set you back.
Wow.
Mhm.
And, even when I think about in my life, thinking about, those are the same maybe misconceptions I had growing up,
Yeah.
about just what you see on TV, what you hear on the news. The stories that they focus on are always going to shed the worst light on a situation. And a lot of the times those who are incarcerated, right?
Yeah, it's great TV.
Yeah, it's great TV.
But as far as the real world, there is a lot like myself and many others that come out and we do great things. We don't go back. For me personally, it was finding a relationship, and this is for myself, with the Lord Jesus Christ. I went in and I was incarcerated. I was very lost. I'm somebody that has come from a lot of childhood trauma. I left my home at 12 years old. There was just so many different things that had to happen. I had a father, by the way, that was a pastor that turned into a heroin addict. So it was very life changing in my home. And there was such a dynamic. My mother left. It was very chaotic. There was drug usage, a lot of things that go on when people are in addiction. And it was just a time that I had to leave. And that actually was the forefront for the life of me getting incarcerated. There's a lot of things that happen.
So
Mhm.
tell me about the story. I don't want to let that go, because I think that's the key,
Mhm.
probably motivation here,
Mhm.
especially in your nonprofit, but just in your mission in general. So
Yes.
tell me about your incarceration as much as you want, and share that story, what that was like before, even when you were released. What was the pinnacle there? Tell us the story of Light before she was incarcerated.
Well, as I was talking about, as a child, I went through a lot of different turmoil, and I didn't never knew how to deal with mental health. In my childhood, it wasn't talk about those things. It's what happens inside here stays inside here, and don't you tell nobody, or they're going to do this, and or I'll kill myself. It was just really traumatic. And you're a child, you don't understand these things. I went to school. I was a very disruptive child in school. I'm the one
And
that
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Corpus Christi,
Corpus
Texas.
Christi. Yeah. So
But I was
South
born.
Texas.
Yeah, I was born in California, but my father was a traveling evangelist at that time.
Okay.
So they stopped and had me in
Horse and wagon preacher.
actually it was a bus.
Okay.
It was a bus that we had. So but that was just a lot of things. There was a lot of unresolved issues. I didn't know about counseling. I didn't know about education. My mother met my father when she was 13. He was 27. So she was a child herself, raising children, and we were all raised as children. So it was just very hard for me. I didn't know that, I realized when I was 12 years old, something was not right about my life. Something wasn't right about what I'm going through. It wasn't normal. I started watching The Cosby Show, and I was like, this is not The Cosby Show.
Yeah, that's
whatsoever.
not the family that I know.
Not the family dynamic that
And
I
then
know.
it comes to find out it was nobody's family that we knew, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
no, terms to find out, it's a lot of families that are going through what we go through. And exactly, it's not a Cosby Show life. So that was the hugest thing for me is I had this heaviness constantly. I had severe mental illness that was not being dealt with. I had my first child when I was pregnant at 15, and my second child at 17. And then I had another child that I gave up for adoption that I now have a relationship. That's a whole beautiful testimony. But during that time, I didn't know, and I had no spiritual connection, which I think is very huge. It's just been the big dynamic for me. So I went many years struggling, not knowing, and then I came across. I used to be a real estate agent, a successful real estate agent. That's another thing.
In Corpus.
No, actually here in San Antonio. I think that's another thing is that when people look at us, they don't understand. Before I was an addict, before I went to jail, I was a real estate agent.
Sure.
I was a mother, all these different things. So I just wanted, something different in my life. And I was going through a lot of frustrations. I met another lady that I came to her home. I was gaining a lot of weight. I came to her home. She was losing a lot of weight. And she introduced me to a drug called meth. I tried it, and it was the most beautiful lie, the most beautiful deceiver, because everything went numb. I didn't feel anything no more. I was always walking around with hurt and panic and a lot of different things, and everything went numb. And from that, I was like, I need more. I did a little bit here, did a little bit there. And within a year, I was homeless. I literally sold my home, sold all my stuff. My oldest son moved out. My youngest son went with his father. It was just really a lot of turmoil. And I literally worshiped that drug and chased that drug,
Sure.
and to a place where it got me into being incarcerated. I was in and out, and I started stealing to cover my habit and all these different things. And every time I went in jail, I wasn't treated with the services that are needed for somebody that goes through addiction. I was treated as somebody that's just a troublemaker.
Yeah.
It's just been such a pattern. It's just,
They see the trouble. They see that versus the person.
well, yeah, there's money in the trouble. There's not a lot of money in the resolution. I don't believe so. It was just something that it was really hard. And when this last time I went and got incarcerated, it was called no bail, no bond. That I've been in and out.
Yeah.
I didn't have the services. I wasn't going to go to probation. And then that drug was in the forefront of my mind. I want to use. I don't want to do what you tell me to do. I don't want to feel. I don't want to know or think about all the stuff I do to use this drug or the effects that I've had on my family. So it's just a constant disease and cycle that happens. And so I got incarcerated. And during that time, I was high out of my mind when I got incarcerated.
Where
Went
was
to
this
Bexar
at?
County.
Where-
Bexar County Jail, right here in San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
Bexar County Jail. And when I went to Bexar County Jail, it took me about 3 months to kick it. That's what we call it in there. And that's basically me detoxing.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of medical
They say
services.
that Bexar County Jail is the largest detox center in San Antonio.
Yeah,
Right?
well, yeah, if you want to get thrown in there and have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
As far as services were concerned, it took quite a while to be seen by a medical doctor and all these different things that I really did need. So actually in Bexar County Jail, who helped me?
Who's that?
Is the other women in the jail.
Sure.
They gave me soups. They gave me crackers. They'd be like, "Hey, don't mess with her. She's,
Yeah,
she's,
detox.
or she's kicking, because you go through. There's a lot of psychosis that happens because this is a very mental drug, and it takes over the body, takes over the mind. It's different than heroin. Heroin has some different side effects, but this one right here is really a mental drug. So during those 3 months of detoxing in hell. I felt like it was just a hell in general. I remember one day coming to myself. I'll never forget this day because I had this lady that was in a bunk next to me, and she says, "There you are." And I woke up. Like I just woke up from this drug-induced that I had for so many months because I used every day, all day, And she looked at me and she goes, "There you are." And she goes, "What is your name?" Because she says, "I've been seeing all these devils all around here, all around you. But what is your name?" And that's when I had the opportunity to tell her my name is Leonora, which means light. That's a God thing that I've changed my name to light. But light means Leonora, and Leonora means light. And when I said my name, I realized I was shattered. I realized what I had done. I realized there's no drug to run to in the jail or anything that I want to take at that moment. And it was just all these different things that were going on. So being incarcerated, going through the Bexar County jail system at this time, which was about 2013 or so, I really just felt lost. I felt shameful. I felt like, how am I going to get out of this? How am I going to do this? And it wasn't actually until I met this lady that started teaching me the word of God. And I always say this is for me because I respect everybody where they are in their beliefs and such. But for me, it was just, I started reading this Bible and I started feeling a peace I never felt before. I found somebody that died for me when yet I was their enemy. And I don't know anybody that dies for me that was my friend. So, it was just all these different things. And I really started to feel a spiritual connection.
So what's the difference there? What's the difference between that spiritual connection and the one you grew up in? You obviously grew up in
Yeah.
somewhat a spiritual. What was the difference? What made the connection of spirituality there, and ironically in the Bexar County jail versus a church? What
Well,
made it different for you?
I was very young in the church, by the way. I was a
Yeah.
very little kid.
Little kid.
So I don't remember much about church.
Sure.
I remember my father getting in arguments with pastors, and I remember running under the table, scared.
You saw how the sausage was made in the chair.
I pretty much saw it wasn't a really good thing. And my father was very religious in a way where he felt drug addicts and people like that were just all sinners and going to hell. It was a very, everybody was going to hell but him, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, fire and brimstone, no makeup, long hair. Don't listen to music, don't watch TV and certain things. So I didn't understand that. And then when the dynamic shift, I never really did have a relationship with God. I didn't hate him. I just didn't know him.
Familiar language. So you go to Bexar County and you experience this spirituality and this conversion. How long were you incarcerated?
I was a year that time. And I was very excited because I had the opportunity to do a Bexar County program called MyOff, which was a recovery program. See, that's another issue that we have, like myself and many others. If you don't have health insurance, if you don't have some type of coverage, you're not going to get into rehab. You're not going to get the medications that you need. So it was literally me going to jail after so many times committing so many crimes that I finally was able to start getting those resources.
It's interesting because next week's Pup Theology is with Camilla Factory.
Yeah,
She'll
good
be
friend of
hosting
mine.
the next round of Pup Theology next week
Whoop, whoop.
at our Grace campus for Corazon, which is a harm reduction site.
Oh, I love that site, by the way.
And
that's passion.
It is. They're going to be talking about opioid overdoses for all different types of drugs, and the high rate we're seeing in Texas, and the lack of resources for those incarcerated, those experiencing homelessness that don't have those resources. The sad fact is Bexar County Jail is the largest detox, only because it's where the beds are.
That's it.
There's only 30 beds in Bexar County to detox and to find instant treatment.
Yeah, you should see how that room looks, by the way.
Yeah.
When you go in there, they strip you butt naked. Sometimes you have a sheet, and you're probably a lab animal for some of the pharmaceutical drugs that are going around. I actually felt higher on some of those drugs than I ever did on street drugs. Yeah.
So the sad thing is we don't have enough resources for those. And so therefore, some of our clients experiencing homelessness, their last resort is jail.
Yes.
And that is not where we want to send them. We need enough resources. So next week, come check it out. Same time, same place on Wednesday, online and also at Grace Lutheran Church this time. And we'll be talking about that important issue because it parallels a lot with your experience and the connections that we have to eliminate recidivism. So you're in prison. You get released. What was release like after that year?
Very scary. It was very scary because I also had to do 3 years probation. So I'm not released. I'm not free.
Yeah.
I'm in this place now that I have to buy back my freedom. I have to pay probationary fines. I lived at Haven for Hope for a year and a half.
Wow.
Yeah, and during that time of living at Haven for Hope and being in probation, but see, this is the thing I want to share with you, that when I was in rehab, I really started developing a relationship with God. Like, we talk together, we walk together. I would get a scripture every so often, just chew on it for a good while. And then I got the great opportunity to actually start doing called a reflections night. And where it was, I got 5 minutes to give like a little sermon. And it was really,
Haven.
No, this is actually at MyOff. Okay. So that actually was the forefront and foundation. So when I came out, I was on fire. Yeah. I want to do better. I want to do great things. But then I remember sitting there on that bench the day that I came out, and I was living in the shelter, and I was like, I have nothing. Like, I have no money. I have no clothes. I have no food. But I remember just strongly hearing, but you have me. And that is what I felt God said, but you got me. And you know what? That was actually my strength to help me keep going, was I kept on encouraging myself. I wanted to know about the mindset. So I had a great opportunity to become a recovery coach. I was one of the first at Sakata, which is the San Antonio Alcohol. I talk about an acronym right there. And then after that, when I became a recovery coach, I got my GED. And that was huge. It took me a year to do that. And then once I got my GED, I became a peer support specialist. And I'm a nationally now a recognized peer support specialist with dual diagnosis. And then I started working for the Center for Healthcare Services and during their permanent supportive housing. And then, but the biggest thing for me was also starting prison ministry, just going and volunteering. But let me tell you, when I came out, it was very hard because here I am on fire. I'm excited because we have people that come in, tell you about the love of God, that you're going to do great things, and think great things are going to happen. And then you come out and you find you are banned.
Yeah, banned from society.
Yeah, see, I know the homeless population, like you said. I was the homeless population. It's a parallel world we live in, and the homeless population, the juvenile detention, the addiction, all these things are rounded up in incarceration. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to figure things out. I start realizing I need a job because I got to pay this probation. Because if I don't pay this probation, they're going to MTR me. Mind you, I'm living in a shelter. I have no car. No employment. So also my probation was at the Genesis Center, which is 2.5 hours that I had to take the bus. And if you're late, don't be late to a probation officer. You might catch them on the wrong day. They have a lot of power over you, and you can get sent back for just those certain type of things. So now I have to figure out how to pay probation. I got to figure out how to get a job. I tried to go to Walmart. Within 10 minutes, they told me no. But then I went to a staffing agency, and they hired me for day labor, and they had hired me to do.
What was it like? What did you do?
Oh, I was supposed to go at the hours that nobody works, which is the middle of the night. So I'm trying to find how to way to get to that, by the way, because I have no car. Yeah, but I need to get paid. I need to get money. So I go there, and it didn't work very well. Let me tell you.
What were you doing?
I was just stacking things. I'm putting labels on things. But it was really hard because there were hours very late. It was hard to get transportation. So it was just hard to actually do a job and work.
Now, like you were determined after your incarceration, you went to Haven, you were going through programs, you were faithful as much as you can be to the probation. That's a story about you. What are the stories that you saw with your friends and your family that you were incarcerated with? When I mean friends and family, like, your brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
That maybe didn't have that. What was the if most people, when they're done,
Yeah.
what is the real, so like what really happens?
There's usually a big thing that happens to us formerly incarcerated. We either die from overdoses or domestic violence. There's a death rate, mental health facilities, they take us in. Also, there's the incarceration system, which we're talking about, recidivism. The biggest reason that I started Free Texas is exactly because I was walking to college one day. I'm starting to get my eyes open. I'm starting to realize the world around me. I'm starting to learn the names to the systems. See, all these things are going on around me, but I don't know the names to these things. I don't know. But I know something ain't right, that this cannot be the way that I'm treated, and this is the way that things are going. I got a call walking to college, and a good friend of mine that I had just talked to 3 days ago that was been struggling in and out passed away. And that's the thing. A lot of the people, I think in the 10 years now, because it's been 10 years now, the 10 years I've known so many, more than my fingers and toes, of people that have died that I love. I have personal. My middle son was incarcerated at 16 while I was out there in the streets. He did 4 years. So it just doesn't also.
So even the smallest of sentences can be a death sentence.
Yes.
In the smallest ways.
And you're labeled.
Yeah.
You're labeled. You can have a misdemeanor. You can have try to go get an apartment with certain type of convictions on you. They won't allow that. Even college, that's another thing that frustrated me so much. Is like, I went to college, I wanted to study neurology. I was very interested in the study of the brain. You can't get a doctorate in that and be formerly incarcerated. All these things I didn't understand or know. So, the biggest thing for me is that I see so many of the people that I love. I did interviews this week. It's the same. My story is not unique of what we go through. It is unique that I prevailed, but that was through the power of education. And having a connection with God for me. And
it's probably very clear to see, and it's going to be hard for me to ask this question, but I'm going to ask it because I feel like we're in the middle of Dream Week.
Yes.
Right. There is a reason we meet during this season.
Yes.
to talk about issues of race in our nation.
Yes.
It is very easy to look at the statistics, not only of those who are incarcerated and then reincarcerated,
Yes.
right? Of how there is a highly disproportion of people that are originally incarcerated the first time and those who go through recidivism that are people of color,
Of course.
right?
Mhm.
What was your experience as a person of color being incarcerated?
I like that you say that. That's a foundation that has been laid for slavery.
Yeah.
You know, if you ever go to the Jim Crow area, and that's what I'm talking about, this education. When you go to the Jim Crow area and such, you see that, you know, when we were set free from the massa, they were like, we need to get them back. So the way to get us back was to incarcerate us. You out late, you get a ticket, you go to jail. And there you are going and making doing back the plantation work. So that design is still today. That system is in place, especially today more than ever. And then let's talk about environment. You know, we have a lot of the Black and brown communities here, East Side and many other communities that are predominantly, you know, Black and brown communities, have very high crime rates. They have poor schools. Like even the school that I'm in, I'm very grateful that I got donated a classroom. It has no windows. It has cement for it really starts to look to me some programming going on.
Yeah, when I was a youth minister, obviously I had youth kids that did drugs.
Yeah.
Not surprising. It was amazing to me just within the church system.
Yes.
If somebody got caught at camp with drugs, which kids brought drugs to camp, they were not angry when the white kid got caught, right? It was, we'll work on it.
Oh, of course.
Right? We'll find a way. We'll find a solution.
That's white privilege at its finest. Yes.
But then when a person of color got caught at camp, we have a massive problem on our hands. You know?
Yes. Call the police.
Let's
Call the
police,
parent.
or like call the parent, or get them in
Mhm.
trouble as much as that can be
Mhm.
possible within that system.
Let's put them on a lot of medication and
Not good
put them in a
lawyers
little
on the,
educational. What is that? Ed class. You know, just put them in a small room and with the other people that act bad. And,
same drugs,
yeah.
same addictions.
Let's put them on Adderall.
Yeah.
They got issues with sitting down and being comfortable.
And so, what is the rates of recidivism for people of color compared to other people in populations?
Well, here just in Bexar County alone, we have, I think it's less than 13% that is actually African American,
Yeah.
but we actually have in our jail 7 times more African American.
Wow.
Than anything. So let's think about that. But I want to go back to environment. You're
Yeah.
telling me, how does this happen? Well, if you're raised in a place where you get very low education, you're raised in a place where, you know, when you get food stamps, don't you dare get a job and get anything that makes any kind of money because they'll take that away. We're raised in a place that wants you to be on, and don't get me wrong, some people need to be on SSI, but even for me, when I came out, they're like, get on SSI, you got mental illness. I can't live on 721. Things are set up to keep us in a poverty set mindset. And then we have, you know, these dreams of being rap artists and being musicians and everything. Because one thing about us people of color, we're extremely talented and everybody want to look like us. You know, we're definitely exploited in so many different ways that we have been. This nation of America has been founded in sin. It's been founded in blood. And, you know, we have this thing, like you said, you have a white child that's going through something. Even now we have an opiate problem. You know what that is? That's a white problem. That's now it's going into the families of not just the people of color. When it was crack, you get 25 years. If it was cocaine, you get 5 years. So now we have an opiate problem. Same drug, just cooked different. Put a little baking soda in it. But you know what?
It's actually less of a drug.
Less of it and cheaper.
Yeah, cheaper.
Keeps you nice and hooked and high for 10 seconds, and you're spending every money on all the money. But that's the thing, environment. There's things that have been systematically set in place for us to fail our Black and brown children. When I go to a school and there's no windows and it's a classroom, what is that? Jail. It's been set up. You know, and I think that's the thing that's going on right now. My ancestors have died for this opportunity for me to sit right here and not be shot or be hanged or lynched. Martin Luther King, that everybody uses now, was one of the most hated people. And we still don't know how he died. That's no big surprise
And he was
right
in
there.
Memphis, you know, not doing the stuff that people thought he was doing. He was there fighting for trash workers' rights.
Yes.
People incarcerated.
Yes.
People, even his own movement were shocked by the support he was trying to find for people who were set up.
He was hated.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that pisses me off the most, I used to go to Lockhart Prison, and I loved going there and teaching the women. Do you know what street Lockhart Prison is on?
I would probably guess.
Yes. Take a guess.
Lockhart, Texas. Where's that Lockhart? Where's Lockhart?
Lockhart,
It's the
Texas.
Austin area, right?
They have a prison, and they have the prisons on a street.
Probably MLK.
MLK.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how they honor the king.
Yeah.
That's how they honor the king. You know,
Put the street in the worst part.
Well, if you go anywhere, I don't know many MLKs. I haven't been everywhere, but every MLK street that I see has a lot of poverty all around it. You know, and there's a lot of different things going on. So there's things that have been put in place, like I said, from childhood. Even our juvenile system, you know, is put up in such a place. I had gotten an email just a while back about right now we have in our juvenile system, there's children that are being locked up for 23 hours. Their programs have been stripped from them. More than half are on suicide rate because they just want to get out and they're going crazy. It's all set up.
So Free Texas,
yes,
is an organization that you started,
yes,
to fight against this.
Yes.
All right. What is your mission statement?
It's beautiful. You know, our mission is we want to have our formerly incarcerated people not only just come out and be a part of, you know, our community, but actually be civically engaged, have educational services, come back and give back to the community, and be a tax-paying citizen that helps in the community. And the way we believe that we can do that is through the power of education. You know, and the skills that we teach and that we show our people. And another big thing too for me is like, I want people that look like me telling me how to help me. You know, that was the biggest thing I had too. I was at Haven for Hope. I remember having a case manager. She couldn't have been no more than 25 or 26-year-old white woman try to tell me how to get better and do my job and check boxes. It was really painful for me. Because, and that's another reason why I started Free too. I remember going into the women's Lockhart prison and having this young black woman, and I said, what would you like to be, or who do you admire? And she would look at me and say, I don't know anybody like me doing anything. Those things hit home. You know, that's the reason why I started Free Texas, because I felt like I had a crowd to God. I said, nobody's coming, and they're killing us, and they're stealing our children. They're destroying our lives and our neighborhoods. You know
they're
what?
Making money off of it.
Oh, we are the biggest profit. You know, there's a millionaire right now for sure because they made those metal toilets. You know, there's big profit in the comeback. It's the biggest comeback.
Privatized prisons.
Yes, privatized prisons. Now that's another one. You know, they have checklists. They have checklists. If you're through the foster care system, if you're young, they'll trade you all around like slavery, sell you to go and do Victoria's Secret panties and JCPenney's clothes and everything, make 10 cents if you make that. You know, there's a lot of things that go on, and we're now wanting to end, you know, privatized prisons. It's so lucrative how they have such a parallel with the government, making money off the blood of our families and children.
People of color at the most.
It's definitely the people of color, but that's what the design is made for.
So you have cohorts, and I want to get to this.
Yes.
And so what's your when you said, okay, we're going to start Free Texas, what's the first project you wanted to work on? Well, you got to start somewhere. So where did you start?
I wanted to start giving resources to people. One thing I realized is through the probationary system, you know, just going through what I went through being on probation, everything is very silo and separated. Nobody talking to nobody. Yeah. So like I got an appointment here. I got 11 appointments, by the way, that I got to do on the bus. I got to be here and I got to be there. And unless I'm advocating for myself, which I can do, but many can't, you know, there's people that are not talking to us. They'll be like, here's a piece of paper. You go get that GED and you better go do something. Yeah. Or I used to have a probation officer so excited. I accidentally had a dirty UA and she knew it. You would have think she saw
What's
Jesus.
UA, to remind you?
Oh, it's a urine that we have to do. We have to pee and during that to see if we have any drugs that are in our systems. And she was very excited about that. And it made me sad because I thought, man, what is she going through where she gets so excited about my failure? You know, but it was just so much that was going on. And that happened. Well, I had to sit there and calm them down because I had to advocate for myself at the Center for Healthcare Services, because what I had to tell them is I wanted I wanted medication that was non-addictive, because they wanted to prescribe me volumes. I'm in recovery. Don't give me an itch. I'll scratch everything.
Yeah.
So there were just so many things that were going on. So for me, it was like, I want to bring resources. I want to bring healing. I want to
Holistic
bring
healing.
holistic healing. I want, instead of us over here scrambling, trying to running around crazy, don't know what to do. You know how many interviews I did today? And the biggest thing was like, I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I have no family. My family don't want to talk to me. I've lost my children. I'm trying to get my kids back.
So Free Texas has different programs. One of them is the cohort program. You had one last year successfully for the first time. Congratulations.
Yes.
Now you're having 3 is what I hear coming up here.
Yes.
Tell me about cohort program and how that plays into the holistic approach of Free Texas.
Well, what we do is a 9-week program that I have renamed the Remnant Healing Academy.
Okay.
And I love that name, Remnant.
Yeah, powerful name.
Very powerful name. And you should look that up, by the way. I'm not going to tell you what it means. Look it up what it means.
Easier to say than recidivism.
Good Lord. You got that right. Still working on that one. I always have to think. But what we do is a 9-week program where we help our scholars. See, let's change the narrative. I call them scholars because scholars are people that go through a long life of education.
Sure.
So I want people to feel good about themselves. I don't like being called an ex-offender. I don't like to be those things. It just make me feel like the worst of the worst because there's such a target on that. So we do the 9 weeks, and what we do is we offer $15 an hour. See, I want to pay people to heal and be able to focus on their education because, like I said, we're always having to buy back. So if I'm asking somebody to come and give me my prime time, which the prison system and all, the probation system does, if I'm asking them to give me my prime time, but yet I'm sitting there thinking about how I'm going to feed myself, where I'm going to sleep tonight, or I have a child that I've been wanting to take to the movies.
What choices will you make if you have?
Exactly. So what we do is we pay $15 an hour. We help them with cell phones and laptops. A lot of them don't know how to even work them, if they've been incarcerated long.
Yeah.
And so we need to help them with that. Or if some of them don't have the money to get one, but yet those are necessities to be able to get connected to do things. And then we also offer hot lunch. And the reason why I do that too is because when I lived in Haven for Hope for a year and a half, I would go to Each One Teach One to get my GED. And that meant that I had to skip lunch, or I might skip a dinner. I might not make it back, but they always had a lot of food and a lot of snacks. So I always felt really good. So I was like, look, we're going to feed people because that's what the word of God is. See, and I live in it, and I always believe too, we need to stop talking about it and we need to start being the word of God, because so many people get tired of hearing about this amazing Jesus, but they want to see this, and a lot of them don't want to see it. But so I'm going all over the place.
2 birds with one stone. In your cohort approach, you're hitting 2 birds with one stone. You're providing them the resources they need to heal.
Yes.
But you're also providing the resources they would need anyway.
Yes.
The food, money,
the common sense things that they take away from it,
and
hierarchy of needs.
And I love you're speaking of computers because we have a program for peer support specialists through Modeline and Claudia, who's one of your speakers, I think, at one of your Free Texas events. Most everyone, if not everyone, but I know it's 90%, if not 100, of my peer support specialists are formerly incarcerated, right?
Yes.
And when we started that program, I saw these applications, and it's a weird thing to hire somebody because they were good at heroin, right? Like that's a quality. Like, okay, it's weird. It's a very odd question to ask in an interview.
Yes.
But a few of them struggled with computers.
Yes.
And it was really hard for us in my form of privilege to be like, man, this person doesn't even know how to use a computer. How the heck are they gonna function as a support person if they can't? And Madeline was gracious with me to go through that struggle and said, just give it time.
That's it.
Because you're not only going to help future people through this peer support program, actually helping that peer support person.
Yes.
And if you can hire this person, you're not only going to help future people, you're helping this person.
Exactly.
And use those computer skills, learn those computer skills, even when you're hiring them for a job.
Yes.
And now looking back at the numbers they accomplished compared to my in the past, other people I know in other organizations, I won't name any by name, but if I see what their success rate is with client success, they lap, if not double lap, triple lap, the success rate of people receiving treatment, finding success, finding housing, getting into all these programs, because they know the system, they feel the system, they've experienced the system, and themselves are part of that story. and it's something that none enough organizations do.
Yeah, when Sakata started doing that recovery coach, I was excited. I had heard from my counselor on probation. She said, "You know what? You'd be a great recovery coach." I was like, "What is that?" She's like, "You help people in recovery." And I was like, "I get paid for that?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "How much you pay? $10?"
Yeah.
And I barely can make $7.25, if
Yeah.
that. So it is. And then also I knew too that I had to give 110, because let me tell you, when you're formerly incarcerated, you're grateful when somebody hires you, because you get denied so many times, and you're grateful. For me, I was very grateful, but I also felt like I had to be at 110 because I still had eyes on me. I still have people. I had a lady when I first started. She was like, "I'm not sure." She's like, "I wasn't sure about you." And it was 3 months later. She was like, "I wasn't sure about you, but you know what? You really are a good recovery coach."
Yeah.
But at first, I'm pretty sure she thought I was going to steal her purse.
No, I think lived experience is the number one quality. And trust me, our systems are not set up for it.
No.
Every time we do a background check, especially through the church, and they make us go through all these bells and whistles of background checks, they are not even caught up to the fact that we can hire formerly incarcerated
Yes.
and people with backgrounds that are different than the average case manager. And they don't know what to do. They think we're crazy for doing it.
Yes.
But luckily, we're a nonprofit with very little contracts that keep us saying no.
Well, who's
But-
crazy now, right?
Yeah, I know. So I want to. There's a few people in the audience that have my questions. If you have questions online, you can post that directly on the Facebook comments or YouTube comments, and we'll see that there.
I did want to add one thing too,
Yeah.
though. I just wanted to share about the 9 weeks, because
Yes,
what
continue
makes
about
it
the cohort.
what makes it special is that on Mondays we do peer support recovery services. We talk about services that are needed, and we bring in speakers that are formerly incarcerated to talk about it. I want to see people that look like us talk about us. And then Tuesday we do education. What is education for formerly incarcerated? There are so many barriers there. So we need somebody to help us through those barriers and let us see if maybe we need to do a trade, a certification. Maybe a 2-year is something we can attain on a certain associate's degree that we like. Then we have Wednesdays, which is civics and divinity. Thursdays we have is employment, and Friday we're doing now health and healing, which I'm very excited about too, because we're going to be talking more. Because throughout the program, I really realized, the more you do this, you're realizing, man, we're having great conversations. We're talking about rooted things, and people are actually being set free in that. Just having that conversation where you're not feeling or treated a certain type of way for saying something that's truthful. So during those 9 weeks, they are able to we did field trips. I was very excited. We did a field trip to Alamo College. A lot of our people have never even set foot in a college before. I never set foot in a college. So when I went to college, I was freaking out. I didn't know. I was like, oh my goodness, and don't say you're formerly incarcerated. I had a situation when I finally said it, and I had quite a few students come up to me and other people that did not want to hang around with me, which was great. Anyways, I really was focused on school, but it can be hurting in different senses. So what I wanted to do was bring the resources to the people. I want to give the people an opportunity to heal. I want it to be by people that are formerly incarcerated, us teaching us how to help each other. And during these 9 weeks, really get grounded in a family where you can say, you know what, I can come back to and talk with you if I have something going on and issues. And then I'm really excited because this year we're going to be doing some family restoration is key. If you think about the system, how it's set up, it is made to divide. You can get food stamps, but don't have no husband. They won't give you no food stamps. You can get SSI, but don't be married. You can't have no SSI.
You can get permanent supportive housing, but not with anybody else.
Yeah, and you have to be on medication, by the way. That's another mandate that they put on there, because that's another thing they did to me. I was supposed to get housing myself, but I got discharged, and then I found out I didn't qualify, and the lady said, well, just go get back on medication. I'll give you the apartment. I said, well, look at the devil is a lie. So I was like, not today. But so what I wanted to do is this accumulation of community services and needs brought to us, instead of us scrambling around like chickens with our heads cut off and trying to ask people that don't care. Some of them just really don't care. Or they burn out, or they have their own mental health and social issues they're going through. And are they, there's just so much things that go on. Or, I deal with racism all the time. I wake up as a Black woman stressed every day. Especially everything that has been going on too with George Floyd, when that happened, when so much race hate that was going on, when people were showing who they really were, people that I was going to lock arms with, that show me who they really were. There's so much that are going on that we need a space and a place where people can come and feel safe. They can feel connected. and then they can connect. When we took those scholars to a college, it was the most amazing thing. Even from that right now, I have 3 scholars that are actually, 2 are in college. One's going for LCDC. And my youngest one, which is Matthew, he was 18 when he started, 19, got his high school diploma, and he's actually registering on Friday
What
himself.
ages are your cohorts?
I do 18 and up. I take violent and nonviolent because I find the most greatest people. That's another thing, violent, nonviolent. I take people that want to heal, that want to connect, that are sick and tired of being sick and tired, that feel isolated and unloved. And I want them to come into this place and say, hey, you might feel crazy, but you know what? Let me show you how I can help you through, and you can understand the names of these systems to help yourself through and your loved ones through.
Is there any questions that people might have for Light in the audience or online? We'll start with the audience here. Anybody have any questions? Can you be brave? You can
Come
either come
on,
up or you
be
can say it, then we
brave.
can repeat it. It's totally up to you. Yeah, yes, ma'am. I want to repeat that question. So she's asking, so the people who are online, they're asking, what do you see in the future? How would you like to grow and move forward at Free Texas?
I had a dream from God. And in this dream that I had, he showed me this big, beautiful building. And I would love to have a place that is equal friendly, that family and children could connect in, that they can have a place that they can meditate, they can breathe, they can learn different things, they could come in. So I would love a place where people can come and get connected. And I would love a Free Texas in every city of every state throughout the nation that is only run by formerly incarcerated people. I want, because we're called to be, make disciples, from what I remember. So what I want to do is teach people not just how to, and just feed them, but I want to teach them how to help feed others while they're feeding themselves. So for me, I would love to scale Freed Texas, that it would be not just throughout the city, but throughout the nation. I would like it run by formerly incarcerated people. And I want to see a place. I have this vision of a building that I have been seeing for so long, the Remnant Healing Academy that I've seen for so long, where people can come and truly get connected. I want it to be lively. I want it to be filled with love. I don't want it where children have to go to this dim room to meet with their loved ones. I want them to be able to come to a space where they can actually build great memories. That's how you heal. A lot of healing has happened for me is because I had so many dark ones, but now I replace them with so many beautiful ones that it starts to fade. So for Free Texas, I love speaking into the atmosphere and setting the atmosphere. I want Free Texas to do that. Just Free Texas, first of all. That would be great to start there. And that talk about, how do you kill the devil? You got to cut the head. This is the head right here. So once we get this going, I would love it throughout the nation. I would just love to help people. And I want people to just to shine. I love seeing people to do my thing too for Free Texas is to have it expand and have people go greater, do greater, and go farther. That would be my blessing. That's my well done right there. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Repeat the question again.
Yeah, she's saying that people that come out of incarceration, a lot of people are afraid of them. How do we change that mindset? I think each individual person needs to start educating themselves on the realness. I think that you need to take an opportunity to go volunteer at Corazon and go sit down and talk to somebody that's going through addiction, that's been through incarceration. I also feel like, as if we're talking about the people of color and white people, I feel white people need to teach white people how to disconnect from these things. I'm tired of having to teach white people about how to do things. I think y'all need to take the initiative to learn to deprogram these things, because I really thought they were having some secret meetings. Yeah. Like, I really think they be teaching them kids some things that belong. I don't know what
we have
y'all
those
do.
Secret meetings.
I really did think that. So what I say is educate yourself. What I say is go volunteer in a place that you'll never want to set foot in. I want you to go in a prison and do a prison ministry and just talk to somebody. A lot of people, that's why I love prison, going into the prison. First of all, I felt safer than I did out here. And the other thing is, a lot of times, they never see nobody. None of their family comes. So if you want to learn how to stop thinking the way you're thinking, start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Start going to places. And if you are a person that loves the Lord and everything else, you know what? Start walking and being the word of God. Instead of having to tell people about Jesus, show Jesus. Because Jesus was with me. He came to me when I was in jail, when nobody loved me or come and talk to me. Nobody. And I'm crazy. I knew the devil. I saw him in the drugs. So I was like, you know what? Let me try this. So that's what I say, is that get in a place of educating yourself, go in the uncomfortable places, and then, you know what? Make friends with somebody that doesn't agree with you or might look like you.
And I'm encouraging our live listeners. There's people listening live. You can go on the comment section and
Great
post your comment.
question.
We have a few more minutes here, so post those questions live. Harder to ask those questions when it's not live, so ask those questions. Any more questions from the audience?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, this has been the biggest learning process for me. I have won the Bridge movement, Bridge, which is huge. It's a grant that we got to help me as a CEO to get better educated on the nonprofit sector. We have some really great partnerships that we have had with Bear County. The West Care just gave us a partnership too as well, and those are financial partnerships. But we're looking to more expand with collabing with other nonprofits to have them come in, talk about their nonprofit and the work that they're doing. I definitely want that, and I welcome that. And I'm welcoming also the education to learn how to do that better. But I do want that. I wanted to expand with others, because this is not a me thing. This is a we thing. You know, this is a community thing. And that's another thing too, is I want to put this back into the space of community first. You know, we know what's best for our communities and how to help serve our communities. So yeah, I definitely would love to work with nonprofits. But right now I'm excited that I got 3 cohorts that I'm going to be doing this year, because I started from doing 10. So I just tripled the number to 3. Yeah. So I'm still learning that. So I'm really looking towards, getting the education. Like, I have another young lady here that's in the audience, that's teaching me more things. Taylor here, she's a part of the Bridge, teaching me stuff that I didn't understand or know. So I have to be patient with myself. I don't want to do anything too quickly. I want to do things right. And not all money is good money. And a lot of partnerships, people want to partner with you, but I want to know where your heart and your intention is, because it's about serving. I don't want to do the system ways. I ain't trying to check boxes on grants. I want to disrupt the system. I want to expose things, and I want to challenge people. So those are the type of people that I'm looking to do the partnerships with, is those people that are willing to see the vision that we have at Freed, help us with it, and connect us. And then I'm also looking for an executive assistant. So, because things have been getting a little crazy, that some people I can't get back on. So those are things that I'm looking at. Thank you.
We'll go back down. It's one question I want to ask you. I first heard you speak.
Yes.
The same day I was sharing at the Bear County Commissioner's Court, which is not a court. It's just the city.
Okay.
It's just the city council version of the county. The county judge is the mayor, and then the commissioners are like city council. And you were sharing about Free Texas.
Yes.
And I was thoroughly impressed. I'd never met you then, and
our scholars were there.
Yeah. And
that was a field trip.
I think I might have been there for the prayer or something like lame. And I heard you speak, and I really was like, wow, like, look out, San Antonio, Free Texas is going to be something. But obviously, in places like that, even here on a podcast, when you go speak at different places, you have to probably not. I want you to say something and answer this question. What is something you've wanted to say, but you've never felt safe enough to say it?
Oh, and I'm not supposed to feel safe now?
Yeah. I'm going to try.
All eyes on me.
I'm going to try. What is something you would want to say to the commissioner's court, but you're thinking, if I say it, it's going to hurt for some reason? What are some things you want to say to leaders that you're sometimes too afraid to say? And not just you, like.
Well, I'm not afraid to say things to leaders. I think that's what's been able to make me so successful. I'm not telling anybody here anything I haven't actually said to the head of reentry.
Anything bad.
The thing that I'm looking at wanting to do is restructure the prison system, the jail system here, the reentry system here. I think what we should do, we have funding that goes on. And a lot of times we have funding that's going to contractors, to different people, especially. There's a lot of different things that are going on that money is not coming to the people.
Yeah.
We had this big pandemic in the freeze. Talk about the homeless population died. There was a bunch of money that was given out to big nonprofits that weren't held accountable for. And, everybody getting raises, everybody doing. So if you want me to talk about something, let's talk about that.
No, I know. I mean,
they're getting
the ARPA money that was supposed to go to
oh
places
my
like
goodness.
Free Texas and Cortisone went to places that could build stuff because they can give that money to contractors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we know that money for those good causes get wrapped up in supposedly good causes, but it's really going to contractors for those elected officials. So that's something we're fighting against in the smaller nonprofit sectors. But
I guess that's what I would say. It's like, you know what? Look, quit trying to lie to us.
Yeah.
We know the truth. I can Google you in 30 seconds and know everything about you. You know what I mean? We're tired of being lied to. We're tired of being deceived. We're not deceived. We know what's going on. George Floyd has been going on. They make rap songs about George Floyd in the 80s. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. It's just so much that's going on. So I think it's time that if I was to say anything to anybody, it's like in commissioner's court or any court that I'm in, it's like, let's really have these uncomfortable conversations and start looking at real ways to resolve. Let's redirect money that's actually going to be poured into the community and not in corporations or big nonprofits that monopolize the nonprofit sector by that way. When I first started off, it was like, oh, you got to be 2 years before you can even think about getting a grant. And I had to do 7 different proposals just to get the little money that I did get,
$25,000.
Yeah, that, so like, let's really start sitting down and talking about how we can really restructure things, how we can really help people. And why don't you ask somebody like me? Why don't you go do a survey in the jail? Why don't you go to Corazon and sit down with the people and say, what is the things that I needed, that you needed, that are not being helped? It's just, we're just sick and tired of being lied to. I'm sick and tired of being lied to. I'm sick and tired of being told, oh, you can't do this and you shouldn't do that. And I wouldn't do that if I were you. I just want to have a conversation with these people and sit down and say, hey, what can we really do that's going to help people? What can we do that's going to help families and our children? And let's just talk about that. There's just been so much deceitfulness going on. And then they think we're stupid. The fact that I can't vote until I finish probation or parole, that's just slavery in itself. Why isn't it that I can't come back out of being incarcerated and go vote? Why can't I go get an apartment? Why can't I be with my family? It's just, I know there's a restructure that needs to happen. And that's where it is. And if I had to sit down and tell any of them that, I just want to say, look, we know the truth. So why don't we start working in that? Why don't we start having conversations in truth? Why don't we expose some things so we can actually heal? That's the biggest thing that I want healing to happen. I don't want, this ain't, politics are intertwined in every different way, but I want healing to happen. Our community is dying and screaming. And if you didn't have PTS, well, welcome to the coronavirus. You do now. So we're all at playing levels where we all need help and healing. So why don't we get that? Why don't we get like Canada and get free Medicaid and Medicare and have a system? Why don't we be like Portugal and actually treat people and give them skills and traits and things like that? All these, it's not something that I'm thinking that's unfathomable.
Yeah.
We know that you've been profiting. We know that you steal. We know that things are happening. Now, look, let's just work through this. Look, the prison system, I don't know how long that's going to last. I really don't. And y'all the elite puts a lot of money in the prison system, but we really need to start shifting. If you don't even care if I live or die, why don't you think about your finances? And we start shifting to actually doing rehabilitation so we can actually help people.
Thank you. So we're we're almost out of time.
Okay.
We have to respect people's time.
Yes.
But one thing that I want to end with, you ever watched the Jerry Springer show back in the day?
Good Lord, yes.
It was a crazy show,
Mhm.
right? Things happened. People got in fight. Things like, who knows? It was almost unwatchable. At the very end, Jerry would censor himself, remember, and have this 2-minute weirdly strange motivational,
Yeah.
and it kind of was nice.
Yeah.
All right, so you're going to give your Jerry Springer 2
Oh, good
minutes at
Lord.
the end to close us. Okay? 2 minutes of the closing remarks of the show.
Okay, let's do that.
But you spoke about something that we really next week are going to be talking about, and that is drug use and opioid use.
Yes.
The opioid deaths that are happening because
Yes.
of laced drugs, not only with fentanyl. Now I'm reading about tranquilizers and
Mhm.
things. And so harm reduction is a word now that has been used
Hmm.
in our world to say that we're going to reduce the harm of drug use through means of needle exchange programs. And in Texas, it's barely legal in only certain parts, Bexar County being one of the few places in Texas where
Yes.
all aspects of harm reduction, and not all of them, at least most of them are legal. Needle exchange programs, safe cooking kits, safe drug kits, sex kits. Same parallel happened in the 80s when they were talking about sex education. Everybody thought we'd be whores if we continue doing this sex
Yes.
education with these sex kits. Everybody thinks that drugs are going to get worse if we do harm reduction. But we learned from places like Canada and Portugal and New York City that when you actually do harm reduction correctly,
Yes.
we see 5 times more treatment. We see people getting off drugs. We see people restoring their lives. One thing in Texas is fentanyl testing strips. The fentanyl is killing people left and right.
Yes.
Fentanyl testing strips are deemed illegal. There are things in Texas, and I imagine this is why free Texas exists. It's a very hard place to live if you're going through recovery.
Yes.
And so next week, Camilla Factory and Modelin and the Cortisone Harm Reduction Program will be interviewing people from UT Health, from University Healthcare Systems, SA Fire Department, and people who are involved in this harm reduction tactic, which is really parallels your experience at Free Texas. That's happening next week, so check it out. Because one thing that we really want to push, when I was in New York, they have legal injection sites, and people lose their mind when they learn about this. I couldn't even imagine it being legal in Texas, but you know how many people have died
Yes.
in legal injection sites? That people who zero, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear the full crunch.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm talking about. If you want some data there,
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah, so they're going to be talking about the policy that needs to take place to really save people's lives. You can't go to treatment if you're dead. And
Yep.
so that's next week. So thank you for watching another round of Pub Theology. The great thing about Pub Theology and all conversations is we don't solve it right now. Right? This is just a dot in the conversation, and we'll continue the conversation in many different ways in our community because we can't solve it right now, but we are continuing the story. You're part of the story. Find yourself in that story in the community. Listen to the people you need to listen to.
Yep.
Right? And be an advocate. And thank you for sharing. So tell us your last 2 minutes, and then we'll close it down. You get the last word.
Awesome sauce. Well, I want to speak to the audience right now. I know there's somebody that's listening right now that has been through a lot of the things that I've been through, that we have been through a lot of childhood trauma, childhood sexual trauma. We've been through addiction. We're probably still struggling in it. Wherever you are right now, just know that, you know what? I was counted out, but God. And during this time, what happened for me was I started getting educated. And education don't mean just going to college. It's just like he talked about harm reduction. It's starting to love yourself where you're at and have an understanding. See, that's the power of education. And that's what I want you to know, that you're not alone. There's many people out there that have gone through what you're going through and have successfully been able to be healed from it, that they can talk about it without crying. I want you to take this opportunity to encourage yourself. You know, that's the biggest thing I had to learn. It's a scripture called Proverbs 18:21. Death or life is in the power of the tongue. I had to start telling myself, you're doing great, Light. You're going to be okay, Light. You know what? I love you, Light. You know what? Even if nobody loves you, I love you. You know what, Light? We're going to make it today. You know what? Just for today, I'm not going to use. You know, those things I ask you to do for yourself. Start encouraging yourself. Know that you're not alone. Get connected. If you want to come and be a scholar at Free Texas, reach me at freetexas.org. You can email me at ceo@freetexas.org. You know, just take this time to do something for yourself that's kind today. Take this time. And if you're somebody that has a loved one, you know what? Call them. Check on them. People are feeling lonely right now. A lot of people are hurting right now. And we understand that. And there's people like myself and many others that want you to succeed. And we know that you can succeed. It just takes starting to learn something different, starting to encourage yourself in the meantime of that. And also, you know what? Starting and volunteer. If you want to learn how to help yourself in recovery, become a servant leader. Serve others. Get connected with others. Find the person in the room that's shining and go stand next to that person. That's what I did when I was in NA and AA and everything. I find the one reading the book. And that's the person I'm hanging around. So just know, you know what? They don't talk about people that are successful, but I am sitting here as a Black woman that has all 3 of her children back in her life, her mother and her father. I just got health care insurance. Good Lord, that was a blessing. And I'm taking care of myself. And now I have a nonprofit that's helping people. And I'm somebody that came out of a lifestyle that was out of turmoil and self-hatred and abuse. And if I can make it, you can make it too, because we're no better than each other. I'm like you and you're like me. But it's time to start learning. And if you don't know, connect with Freed. And if you find somebody that's doing great, connect with them. Because it's all about the people, places, and things. And more than anything else, you know what? I want to share this with you. Wherever your faith may be, your belief, know that God loves you. I want you to know that. And it's hard because we're so used to being hard on ourselves and talking all ugly to ourselves and not understanding things. But you know what? God loves you. You will make it through this. And he's going to meet you right where you are, wherever you might be. And you know what? You're going to find somebody like I found somebody to pour into me and teach me about how to love myself and what college means and what school means and what traveling means. I've been traveling this year, and that's because I wasted 10 of them. So let me tell you, there is opportunity. We do heal, we do recover, we do better, and then we go and help others. And I encourage you today or tonight or wherever you're watching this to know you're not alone. That's a lie. There's more of you, and we need to start speaking about it. The more we expose this and speak about it, the more we're going to heal. And it's a time to heal. It's your time to heal. It's just you. It says what morning crime might go for the nighttime, but joy comes in the morning. When do you want your morning to start? Because it can start now. And it can start when you start taking that opportunity to see that other people are doing these things, and you can do it too. Become part of the movement. Become part of the movement.
Thank you, Light. And you are a radiant light in San Antonio. You're the salt and the light, speaking of scripture, to a very dark and tasteless world out there.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being that spice and that light in San Antonio and in Texas.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to
fun.
Pastor Chad and this beautiful place at the Arsenal. Check them out as well. They're in Southtown San Antonio. You can probably worship with them or hang out with them on Sunday mornings, and they're building a beautiful coffee shop area over there. It's almost done. You can check it out. So thank you for hosting us at multiple DreamWeek events, Chad. And thank you for DreamWeek for hosting and also having events all over San Antonio. Check them out. We'll see you next round of Pup Theology.
Take care.